So I've got a good background in fitness, right? I've got over 2 decades of experience making strength training programs, both training myself and working professionally as a trainer and gym owner. I also started to dabble in endurance sports about a decade ago, have been pursuing running a bit more seriously for about 5 years now, and I've raced distances from 5K all the way up to ultra marathons. In the past year, I've been slowly working to put together those training methodologies into what has now been coined as hybrid training. It is the perfect marriage between building strength, muscle, and endurance. And there's a big gap that I don't see discussed often enough. You see, hybrid training, by its very nature, will let you down if you don't take the right approach. I'm Dave, and this is Dave Does Fitness. So let's kick things off with a small channel update. Thank you all so much for checking out the channel, for all the new subscribers, for everyone commenting. I really appreciate each of you and can't wait to keep growing this channel with all of you. And special shout out to, and I hope I pronounced this right, Waikeet Choi, who is the 100th subscriber to the channel. Y'all are getting in on the ground floor and we're only heading up. So please, as a small channel trying to make an impact, your likes and subs are definitely appreciated. Okay, so I recently made a couple videos on my experience with Nick Bare's version of hybrid training, and during those videos I mentioned a few things that we're going to touch on today. That's why I brought it up. If you haven't seen them, check it out. There's a couple of them now. I talk about the spectrum of fitness abilities in one of them. So as a quick recap on the fitness spectrum, we talked about pure strength and power athletes like power lifters, Olympic lifters, being on one side of the spectrum, while pure endurance sport athletes such as triathletes or ultramarathoners exist on the opposite side of the spectrum. So as a hybrid athlete, you want to live right in the middle of that spectrum. You're stronger and more muscular than a pure endurance athlete, right? You're filling out your shirts even if you have to get them an extra medium. But at the same time, you have cardio for days compared to a pure strength athlete. You carry the boats and the logs on a daily basis and no one knows you, son. It's really the best of both worlds, or at least that's the idea. But what if that's actually a problem? You see, in the past 6 months or so, when I've really been honed in on following a hybrid program, I also mentioned I'm kind of in an off season right now. I've got no races lined up, no fitness shows or sports seasons or anything. It's a great time to be a hybrid athlete. But if I really think of the times when I've made the most strength gains and muscle building gains, it's unsurprisingly during times where that has been my sole focus. I used to do some powerlifting back in the day, and I was on a very strict lifting program to get my big 3 up. Now, I did include some GPP, or general physical preparedness, which is basically just cardio for fatty powerlifters. But I was 100% focused on strength building. I had 5 days per week of lifting, 4 main lift days, and 1 for accessories. There was no days dedicated for cardio in that program. Now let's contrast that with my most recent running season, when I ran a marathon and ultra marathon in a 6-month period and was getting monthly mileage up around 50 to 60 miles per week. I made great gains on my base building and increased my sustainable pace by quite a lot. During that time, I did some light lifting that mainly focused on body weight, kettlebell, and some dumbbell training. I'd mostly do 2 short 30-minute sessions each week, and quite obviously, I was not really getting stronger or more muscular during that time. You could definitely say my big 3 became more like a little 3. So this starts to show some of the gaps with the hybrid training philosophy, right? Let's also take a look at a comment that was recently left on one of my other videos. I want to paraphrase it and summarize a bit. This comment was left by Christian, so shout out to Christian for being a viewer and active member of the community. Christian's a 26-year-old guy. He's 6'3" tall and weighs 163 pounds. Pretty tall, not too heavy for that kind of height. So naturally, he's trying to add weight, but he says he doesn't want a dirty bulk, he doesn't eat junk, he's a pretty healthy guy. He also doesn't currently take any supplements, no caffeine, all natural, all healthy. Now he wants to build his strength to bench his body weight, squat 1¼ times his body weight, and deadlift 1¼ times his body weight. Pretty reasonable goals. But he also says after running 2 half marathons in the past, he wants to do a third one and be under 2 hours this time. So that's about a 20-minute improvement, which is definitely not anything to sneeze at. That's pretty serious. He wants some ideas for weekly mileage. So do you see a problem here? So first of all, kudos to Christian for looking to improve his fitness, strength, and health. More people should be looking to tackle these types of goals and looking for help when they need it. Let's talk through this because I think it embodies the problem I was touching on before. If you're a natural athlete and are trying to improve your strength, muscularity, endurance, and speed, I mean, you theoretically can do it all, but with the line you have to walk for that is so narrow and there's just no room for error. And by the way, your progress is gonna be slow. So the reason for that, to build strength and muscularity more quickly, you're gonna need to be eating in a calorie surplus. You're gonna have to be lifting with enough volume to create a training effect, which is basically just another way of saying your body is forced to adapt because of the stress you're putting on it with the program. You need adequate time to recover between workouts because that's really where your gains are realized, right? When your muscles are getting bigger and your strength is increasing, it's during the recovery periods. So let's contrast that with wanting to increase performance in an endurance event. That requires growing volume for weekly mileage, doing speed work. It needs its own recovery time, right? So they're kind of different things, right? So you see the problem? You're trying to make progress in both. It's like trying to be on both sides of that fitness spectrum at the same time. And I feel like that's the gap in the hybrid training philosophy. You can't have your cake and eat it too. At its base, being a hybrid athlete means that you're compromising to live in the middle of that fitness spectrum. So you will be slowly building both sides of your fitness. When you try and do it all at once, you're either going to get frustrated at your lack of progress, or that is when the volume gets too high and you get an injury, which is the most common criticism I've been seeing about people's attempts at doing a hybrid training program. So the faster gains come when you leave the middle of that fitness spectrum, but the secret sauce is not to abandon what you aren't developing. You put it into a maintenance mode while you shift your focus on what you want to develop and improve upon. So to backtrack really quick to that video comment I mentioned before, Christian did say he's looking to post his new half marathon time by next summer. I'm filming this in the fall, so we're talking like 9 months. So while he can't simultaneously chase those goals, at least not efficiently, he does have enough time to sequentially chase those goals, build his strength and his desired lifts, get those lifts up like he wants, and then shift focus into a nice training season for the summer and tackle that half marathon. And I did reply to him in the comments, and that's pretty much exactly what I said. Given the information he shared, I think that's kind of his best approach. So let's take a look at a few quick ideas of hybrid training weekly templates so you can see what I'm talking about here. And again, these are not hard numbers. They represent what I would consider someone in decently good shape could accomplish while minimizing risk of injury, right? These aren't elite numbers, but it's also not beginner levels of volume here. So first, let's talk about like a maintenance mode, right? So this is kind of like what you would consider your standard general approach to hybrid training. You're not training for anything in particular. You're just improving your fitness and you're running, you're lifting. So we're talking about like 3 days of running, 15 to 25 miles each week as weekly mileage. 3 days of lifting, compound lift each day, right? So a push-pull leg split is a decent split to achieve this. And the other day is a rest day. Now I also want to include what I call accessory work. It's important enough that it's worth mentioning separately, and maybe this is done as its own separate little workouts or on separate days, or maybe they're tacked on before or after running or lifting. Depends on your schedule and how it's going to fit in, but I think they aren't negotiable if you're looking to stay healthy on a long-term program. So for accessories, we're talking like 10 to 20 minutes of stretching, both static and dynamic stretching, 10 to 20 minutes of soft tissue work for both running and lifting, warm-ups, and muscle activation drills. So that would be like a standard template, right? Your general approach to a hybrid training workout program. Okay, up next, let's talk about what we'll call endurance mode. All right, so this would be if you're actively training for a race or you just want to specifically focus on improving your running or really any endurance activity. I run more than anything else. I compete in running races, so I'll refer to running, but if you do something else, then use your imagination, pretend I just said biking or swimming or pogo stick jumping or something. These will be running numbers. So let's say we're doing endurance mode. We're approaching that with 4 to 5 days of running. So 25 to 50 miles per week. Now you might be thinking, whoa, that's a big range. And I know that's really depending on your running level and also what your goal is. If you're trying to tackle a marathon or above, you'll find that your ability to actually race that distance and not just finish the race starts to really kick in when your weekly volume gets up that high into the 50s or even higher. So 4 to 5 days running, 2 days lifting, probably just an upper and lower split is sufficient there to maintain, and 0 to 1 days rest depending on, how much running you're doing, and then of course the accessories. So next would be strength mode, right? So this is if you're trying to look to build your lifts, increase your muscle size. So now we're going to dial back the running, put that in maintenance. 2 to 3 days of running, 10 to 20 miles per week. 4 days of lifting now. So we got our push, pull, leg split. The 4th day could be another lower body day. So you could have like maybe a hip dominant day, think deadlifts, posterior chain focus. And the other could be quad dominant day. So think squat or lunge focus. Alternatively, you could do something with more miscellaneous muscle groups like arms, shoulders, abs, calf work, whatever you want. Right, so 4 days of lifting there. Again, 1 day of rest, and you're always working in those accessories that we mentioned at the beginning. And each of these rough frameworks could have some adjustments within them as well. And I really think that's kind of the key to making this all work. Being able to adapt up and down the volume with each respective part of the program according to what you're working towards. So you can see I'm playing around with some template ideas here as I start to experiment and build some of my own hybrid programming. Y'all have spoken in the comments, so I'm definitely working towards coming out with my own flavor of hybrid training in the not too distant future. So what do you think? Have you made a hybrid program work while burning it from both ends? Do you also find the need to shift focus to make faster progress and avoid injuries? Let's connect in the comments section and talk about it. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for taking the time to hang with me today. I appreciate you and hope you consider throwing a thumbs up and even subscribing. I've got a lot more content planned and we're growing each day as a community. I'm Dave and this is Dave Does Fitness. Have an awesome day and stay fit.